bold in what you're asking for, right? And so many times we get stuck in the like, I gotta fix myself, right? And that's just one side of what I call feminine intelligence, right? Because I'm gonna just say it out loud. I hate when the word ambition is called masculine. I hate when the word bold is even called masculine. I'm like, so I hate when the word winning is called masculine. So what does that mean? Losing is feminine? I don't understand. Like, what's interesting how we've societally even put energy on words that actually where we said if we want to raise more money, we do need to show up bolder. We do need to make a case for why X, Y, or Z is going to help the world. And it's a financial conversation. So my question to any of you who want to pick this up first, and maybe actually Genoveva, since you came from hedge fund world, how's a great way that we could message that better of the advantage of infusing this intuitive, creative innovation into tech that we want to move us forward?
So going back to the systems that have been created, right? Industrialization was created by men, for them to be working. And then technology information came over and kept doing the same thing. And then we intersected ourselves and like, we're gonna get into the business of working, right? Instead of raising families. And while we were doing that, one of the things that it might be an unconventional truth is we wanting to become men in the men's world. And I think the human advantage and the feminine advantage we should have and that we can honor is our feminine advantage, right? We are incredible intuitive. We can use emotion in a different way. We always think emotions are either underrated or overrated, right? Men suppress it, don't supposedly show it at all. We are supposedly the ones showing it all and victims of it. But emotions are simply neutral. They have nothing. It's how we use it. It's again a tool and a messenger to ourselves. So this is the key important. Like if you know how your body functions, how your emotions function, you know how you can deliver something, right? So it's also when we show up at a men's office and we're in this masculine way threatening them, that's the first thing they feel. Think about it. We don't talk about emotions, yet the energy in the room feels threatening. But if I come and I want to collaborate with you, I want you to help me, right? Because this is where we are. We are very collaborative. That's what women do. We help and support each other when we nurture each other. They compete. They want to be the best. They want to try the hardest. And believe me, they succeed. They get the $1 billion sell, and what happens after that? It lasts 24 hours, maybe a week, and then there's the next thing. But we are the nurturers and creators, right? This is longevity. So how do we start to show up ourselves owning and honoring our feminine advantage? We don't have to be like them. We have to own who we are. And that doesn't mean to be bold. It just means to be assertive with a smile.
Like just own what we know.
Own what we know.
That's kind of it. And a lot of times we question.
And they know we're smart.
Yeah.
We don't have to prove them. But when we try to prove it, it just shuts them down because they think we're trying to prove them. And we don't have to say anything. We all feel the energy, right?
Well, that goes back to this robo-default genderization of male versus female, period. Because we know that, all of this feminine intelligence that we're baking into the future or the now and into the future, it's good for boys, it's good for men, and vice versa. We can take a note about how to ask for what we want and band together on the golf course, and just make deals. And I think that with men and with each other, but we tend to still even separate ourselves. And I think it's about integration, not separation now. And I think that's the most feminine thing that we can do for tech too, is notice that it's an integrative process. It's not linear, it's not binary, it's actually meshed, which is really cool. So I want to get to some of the fun stuff, like the Burning Man stuff. Because we're talking about how psychedelics and other alternative therapies have become more accepted now, right? And especially in leadership, actually, right? I mean, so, before it would be like you'd go to Burning Man once a year and you'd go have your fun. But now there's all this spectrum of curiosity, exploration, and then there's actual data and science showing how doing some of these plant medicine / journeys things are helping to resolve and get back to neutral so that we're not playing this robo-human behavior. And so I'd like to go into that with Sukhi, because this is one of her areas. So back to, there's that growing conversation around using psychedelics for leadership expansion rather than just healing. Because before it was like psychedelics are for healing only, but now it's also about leading and maybe even finding your real voice, your true, authentic voice, right? So can you talk more about what you're seeing? And I know you have tell them all your things that you've had to do, even in your own career, to really deepen under this study of work, and then how you're doing it and seeing it in leaders now.
Well, I'm a registered clinical counselor, so I really took the kind of traditional therapeutic path, and I always found that in the rooms with my clients, back when I started, almost 20 years ago, it was like spirituality was like kind of something I snuck in the back door under mindfulness. Whereas now, that's purpose and spiritual growth and feeling a sense of, doing something bigger and more significant in the world is actually super important for leaders. And for everybody, really, the doing just the grind, it's like they meet all those markers, and then they get there and they're like, what the heck, I don't even feel good. I don't even have a good connection with my family members. I don't even really like myself. I don't really know what to do with myself when I'm quiet, when no one else is around. And so it's led to people wanting to have that deeper exploration. And in the science world, they really, the way to kind of do the research and take that legitimate path is to work on mental health, right? But it's not just about the really PTSD survivor. It's about every one of us who's looking for something beyond kind of our conditioning and the experiences that we had, and really that default mode network that we operate from. And so what these, I'll call them like altered states of consciousness, like similar to what Dr. Amy's doing as well. It's where you get to turn off that default mode network and actually experience, I don't know what any of you would experience. We all have a different, unique experience, but whatever it is like the intelligence of our body. We're sitting in this like really cool, but a very construction technical kind of room, but really we are nature. So the same intelligence that an acorn has that turns it into an oak tree, we also have that same healing intelligence within us. And so if we can just turn down the dial of all of that conditioning, all of those experiences, those traumas that have kind of gotten locked into our body, we actually have our own capacity to heal. And in these states, that natural inner healer shows up and takes us wherever it is that we need to go at that time. And then that, combined with the intelligence of these medicines that have been utilized for thousands of years in indigenous cultures, for they did it for the mental emotional healing, but also for spiritual expanding, as also for rites of passage, and really having these markers in people's lives where they up level, and when they really get to know themselves in a new way. And so that's really what it allows for, and I think that's part of the reason why leaders are really feeling called to this kind of work now. It's like they checked off all the boxes, and they got there and they're like, and what? This sucks. And so this is about really developing that intimate relationship with yourself, trusting. There's a deep trust in yourself, in knowing that there is this inner healer in you. And once you experience that, you can't unknow that. You know, you can't experience this feeling of connection with oneness or this unconditional love for yourself. And you go back into life, and of course, you know, the 3D will challenge us, but it's not gone. And that's where integration is really important. So really having a way to take those insights, take that clarity, take that healing, and really actually integrate it into your everyday life so that you know, it really is that upgrade. It really is that up-leveling. It really is that new kind of lens that you have into your internal experience.
Well, Dr. Amy, can you talk a little bit more about the science as well behind it? Kind of, there's even a lot of studies right now that I pulled. Obviously, I'm just curious. When I read these articles about peak performance and using plant medicine, that relationship, because how many of you are kind of tired as women? Like, especially if you're perimenopausal, we talk about the hormone shifts, all the things. And so, like, understanding also how these alternative ways to manage our own emotional, mental, and physical health. What's some of the science that's coming about right now that you're seeing?
Well, first off, just as a context, I'm definitely not an expert in psychedelics and the benefits, but I can speak to it to the extent that I can. So I would say that in the leaders that I know that are working with psychedelics, you definitely see a change in their default mode network. They're definitely, especially like for instance with psilocybin, we get a lot of neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity can happen with microdose, with low dose, and it can happen with the macrodose. We find it really interesting when people do go sit with medicine and then they come and do our work because we get a lot more benefit and we don't have to serve it, which is awesome because I think we're already in there doing quite a lot and we don't want to go too many lanes. You know, I was speaking with my colleague the other day. My colleague, Dr. Drew Pearson, is the neuroscientist of the team. I speak enough to translate for him and to be able to make it applicable to the regular world because even most MDs don't know what the heck he's talking about. So with what he was saying the other day, there's a bit of an overplay on the amount of neuroplasticity that comes from ketamine, but we do see some neuroplasticity there. I'm not saying that ketamine is a bad choice either. I'm just kind of speaking to what I can trust definitely in his capacity to interpret that data. But what we're seeing again and again is that people can make really huge quantum leaps. You know, as a professional, I might have worried at one point about what it would be like as a doctor of Chinese medicine, the Chinese medicine boards. It's an extremely rigorous field of study, and the license board is extremely strict. So I know not to cross certain lines, but did I want to come out about talking about this? Because I started teaching about psychedelics a great number of years ago compared to where most people are at, maybe like 5-7 years ago. It's like a long time ago in the field of psychedelics. And I decided it was worth taking the risk. And the reason why I decided it's worth taking a risk to talk about it publicly, even before it kind of became cool to talk about it, is because I'm really here for change. And I'm really, really wanting for people to have access to and to destigmatize psychedelic medicine, because there is a right fit for almost everyone. There's a right environment for almost everyone. And there is a catalyst that is waiting for people that they may not realize or recognize is there, that is safer than they realize, because it's similar to the menopause conversation. We've been indoctrinated into thinking that HRT is so dangerous, and we've also been indoctrinated into thinking that psychedelics are dangerous or stupid or it's a party thing. And hey, maybe it is for some people, and actually it definitely is for some people, but I would say that if it's done in a sacred way, with intentionality, people get massive yield, and they are forever changed for the better. And they'll often describe it as a moment that it was like when their baby was born, or it's like some other massive moment in time, and they're describing something that happened on their sofa that maybe they were afraid of before that, right? Or inside of a ceremonial temple that they were terrified of. So it's so important for us to be able to just recognize there's definitely a huge amount of neurosciences. I have seen it in my clinical practice. I've been in practice for 23 years. I have seen it massively, massively expedite the healing process, but also not just emotional and mental, but also physical. People have radical physical health, big diagnoses disappear massively lessen, and it can happen in, one deeply integral sit with medicine. So I think that it's something that we should all definitely be open to and explore. And we've definitely seen our clients come through. We might have an EEG and they went and did some plant medicine work, and then they come back for more work with us, and we can see the synergy of their work with everything else that they've done. Maybe they're also doing therapy work. Maybe they're all somatics. Let's not get there by increments, folks. Like, I think that we're kind of also done with that. Like, this idea of doing your inner work, it's like, let's not think of it as like a psychotherapeutic torture wherein we have to like lay down in our own misery for decades and hopefully get marginally better. Like, screw that. That's a really bad model. Like, can we just get there faster by utilizing deep integral work? Like, not shortcuts, deep foundational work. And if that involves psychedelics, if that involves high-tech, brain modification, I mean, why not, right? Like, if we are really holding it in a way where we are in integrity with ourselves and with the all that is, and we're moving the needle forward, it's almost more like, how dare we not? And I don't mean that about psychedelics if they don't resonate for somebody in particular, but the journey itself and diving in and really freaking going for it, like, what are we waiting for?
Well, we even opened up, if you were with us from the beginning, I mean, we opened up with this amazing breathwork session by Sam Skelly, and even breathwork is known to bring you into different states of consciousness and being. So it's not just psychedelics, it's breathwork, it's different meditations, it's just like this panel of opportunity. And so we're talking about psychedelics because it's fun and it's edgy, but it's also actually interesting because I want to ask Genoveva this, since you are an AI investor and you come from this place of helping guide leaders in the emotional and energetic embodiment so that they can lead differently for us in the future. Have you noticed any non-traditional embodiment tools like plant medicine or breath work or other ways that that people are using that you've noticed have helped? And then I have a second part of this. How would you also speak to leaders who are curious about some of these methods that we've talked about today, but are hesitant because of stigma or legality or fear of losing control? Because I can just raise my hand that I'm super open person. I'm always curious, but I gotta say I'm nervous about doing a psychedelic journey or a plant medicine journey. I haven't done one yet, full on, and I realize I can see it's like there's a stigma in it inside of me, which is weird because I'm like, oh, I'm open, but I'm not really fucking open. You know what I mean? And so I'm curious, what would you say from a thought partner perspective for us right now? Because again, it's not about should we do it or what we must do, but it's more like what are the things we should be asking ourselves, I guess, is maybe a better way to put it. And I'll start with you, Genoveva.
I think it goes back to yourself. How good do I know myself, right? What is it really gonna work for me? Is this plant medicine intended for me? Is the breath work intended for me? Is this meditation? There's so many types of meditations, and not all of them fit for all. Same as for breath work. You could try one breath work and then you're like, I'm done within 2 seconds, right? Or you can try another one and you're like, this was a mystical experience, right? And it's the same with a meditation, and it's the same probably with plant medicine. So what I can tell you is that I have seen changes when people have the intention and they have had the catalyst to change something. If you're not suffering of anything, which I doubt, right? If you, in the last 30 days, have not had any anger in your life, it's not for you, right? So think about it, that many times that people are in anger, are having a conflict in a relationship, haven't been able to forgive something, right? When you're in that deep state of stress and chronic, and whatever had been conditioning to you since you were a child, and you get to probably 42 for women, 49 for men, when they start to search a little bit deeper about themselves, right? When you're in that stage and you're wondering, I need something else, you find a very safe place. Either, like Holon is amazing, right? Plant medicine. But you found not just a safe place that is going to take you and escape away from your reality, but that is going to bring you back and help you integrate what's in your life. Because with these buzzword of let's do psychedelics and let's do an Aya trip, let's do this, we're forgetting to integrate and come back to our reality. Let's not use the tools to escape what you have here, because you came to this world to be in this world, not to be in meditation all day, because it's really easy to be a monk and just sit and forget about the rest of the world. But it's how am I dealing with my relationships, with my children, with my spouse, with my coworkers? If that's not happening, right? You can go on 100 trips and they're not serving you. So it's about how we integrate and how you know the safety. And because it's really important to know. I know someone, for example, that had an incredible Costa Rica trip. Everyone would know probably where. And she came back. And after a month, she couldn't come back to herself. She had to be induced in a coma, right? To come back. So it's really important that you know what you're doing, who is your support after, and who's going to take care of you, and how you're going to integrate. Because we're not just going to go and come back without knowing what we're integrating.